It started with silence. Not the good kind. This was the eerie, stomach-tightening kind that usually follows chaos. My yard was too quiet. No jingling collar, no thumping paws on the porch. Just the faint rattle of my neighbor's sprinkler and the hum of cicadas. "Baxter," I called out, scanning the yard. Nothing. Baxter, my golden retriever with the expressive eyebrows and the appetite of a garbage disposal, never wandered off. We had a strict morning routine. Coffee for me, tennis ball for him. But that day, the ball just sat on the porch step, abandoned and slightly slobbery. At first, I thought maybe he'd slipped through the fence gap behind the hedges. Then I noticed something odd. The gate latch was open. And before this mystery unravels any further, if you live for stories where justice claws its way back with evidence and karma, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss the next one. I knew I'd closed it. I always did. That muscle memory was carved into me after years of HOA warnings about proper pet containment. The gate hadn't just been opened, it had been unlocked. By the time I reached the street, my phone was already in hand. I texted my neighbor, Mrs. Delgado, who had security cameras. "Hey, did your driveway cam catch anything weird this morning? Baxter's gone." 5 minutes later, she replied with a blurry screenshot. A woman, recognizable even in pixelated form, the queen herself of our HOA, Karen Tilney. White visor, clipboard, and an expression that always looked like she just smelled something offensive, probably freedom. She was walking right past my driveway, holding Baxter's leash like she owned him. I sprinted straight toward her house. Now, you have to understand, Karen didn't just run the HOA. She wielded it like a medieval scepter. She once fined a guy $100 because his trash can lid was slightly ajar on collection day. Another neighbor got cited for painting her mailbox too creamy of a beige. Karen knew every rule, real or imagined, and she never missed a chance to flex them. Her yard was pristine, the kind that looked airbrushed. Baxter barked from behind her gated porch when I got there. "Karen," I shouted, heart hammering. "Why do you have my dog?" She appeared at the door, her trademark smirk settling in. "Oh, you mean the HOA's community pet?" I blinked. "Excuse me." She stepped outside, arms folded like a lawyer on closing arguments. According to Section 4, Subsection B of the HOA Pet Guidelines, unapproved free-roaming animals within the grounds can be considered communal property until proper registration is provided. My voice cracked somewhere between disbelief and fury. Communal? He's my dog. He wasn't roaming free. And what on earth are you talking about? Karen shrugged, completely at ease. "If you can prove ownership, I'll see what the board says. We take abandoned animals very seriously." "Abandoned?" I snapped, pulling up photos of Baxter on my phone. "Here, look, he's microchipped, vaccinated, lives with me. You've seen us every morning." Karen's smile didn't waver. "Documentation," she said sweetly. "Bring it to the next board meeting." She turned and disappeared inside, leaving me standing in her driveway, fists clenched and mind racing. Baxter barked again, even louder. When I finally walked back toward my house, every step buzzed with outrage. I called animal control. They said if there was a civil dispute of ownership, I'd have to handle it through legal channels. The police? They told me it was probably an HOA matter. By noon, she'd emailed the entire neighborhood newsletter declaring a wandering, unregistered animal had been temporarily secured for the safety of the community. No name, of course, but everyone knew whose dog it was. I printed every photo, the microchip registration, the adoption paperwork, even the vet receipts. Then, something in me clicked. Not panic, not desperation. It was strategy. If Karen wanted to play bureaucracy, I'd give her the full season finale version. I set up my own plan. Mrs. Delgado agreed to share her footage. I bought a motion-activated camera for the fence, and Baxter's spare collar, the GPS one he used on hikes, was about to become my silent witness. Karen thought she'd written the rules. Fine. I was going to make sure the truth wrote her ending. The next morning, Karen strutted down our cul-de-sac as though she could find gravity for noncompliance. She waved at a few neighbors, paused to inspect a mailbox post, then casually glanced at my driveway cam, like she knew it was there and enjoyed the fact. Her smug calm meant one thing. She thought she'd won. But I'd spent the previous night building my counterattack like a legal heist movie. My home office now looked like a miniature investigative command center. Laptop open with HOA bylaws in one window, the Virginia Pet Protection Statutes in another, and Baxter's microchip database confirmation dead center. The HOA guidelines were clear on one crucial point. The board could issue warnings for pets running at large, but confiscation? Not anywhere in the 50-page tome of neighborhood tyranny Karen had assembled. That was technically theft of property. And my motion cams? Already recording. Mrs. Delgado came over carrying a USB drive. She came to my porch again this morning, she whispered. Put up a new sign about HOA custody protocols. I got her on video, too. I smiled grimly. Baxter's GPS collar will pin his location at her house. That's stolen property on record. We sync the footage and timestamps. At 7:43 a.m., you could see Karen unlatching my gate, calling softly, then Baxter bounding over. The next frame, Karen slipping the leash on, glancing around, and walking him back toward her house. Caught red-handed. Still, I knew evidence alone wouldn't make a dent in her titanium-grade arrogance. Karen had convinced the community she was the savior from chaos, self-appointed, clipboard-certified chaos. So, to win, I didn't just need proof. I needed a spectacle. By Thursday, I had an appointment with an animal law attorney, Mr. Hahn, a quiet man with the patience of a saint and the precision of a chess grandmaster. I laid every photo and document across his oak desk, including a printed map from the collar's GPS trail showing unauthorized relocation of property. When he finished scanning the stack, he looked up and said the words I'd been desperate to hear. You have her. This isn't a civil dispute anymore. It's larceny, and if she knowingly redistributed your property under false HOA authority, that's fraud, too. We drafted a cease and desist notice citing the bylaws and state law, copied to both the HOA board and the county sheriff's office. Hahn also suggested a strategic flourish, an invitation to the next public HOA meeting, where, as he put it, Karen's weapon of choice, rules, can be turned into her downfall. Meanwhile, the stakeout continued. My fence camera caught Karen visiting my yard twice more, checking if I'd replaced the dog. The woman probably pictured herself presiding over a furry commune of confiscated Labradors someday. That evening, as the sun sank behind the oaks, I caught Mr. Delgado tinkering with his drone. You still selling aerial footage for real estate promos? I asked. Depends who's asking. For justice, I grinned. We positioned the drone high enough to capture Karen's porch without violating privacy laws, just the front yard and public walkway. The video showed Baxter pacing behind the gate, whining, while Karen watered her azaleas like it was a completely normal day in authoritarian suburbia. By now, the street was buzzing. Neighbors whispered, phones pinged, group chat titled HOA Watch exploded. People were tired of rules about flower colors, fence heights, mailbox fonts. Baxter's detainment was the bone that finally made everyone bare their teeth. One neighbor printed "Free Baxter" posters and stuck them on her garage. Another quietly sent me an anonymous tip. Apparently, Karen had been reprimanded 2 years ago for unauthorized possession of a stray cat in a different neighborhood before she moved here. It was her pattern. The day before the board meeting, Hahn texted me 3 words: bring the footage. We printed the GPS logs, 5 screenshots, the legal notice, and one tidy summary of Karen's offenses. I rehearsed my remarks the way someone might rehearse an opening statement in a high-stakes courtroom drama, because that's what it was. As the night of the meeting arrived, the entire neighborhood gathered in the community center. Folding chairs scraped, paper fans fluttered, whispers hummed with anticipation. Karen sat at the front table, gavel in hand, smiling her high-beamed politician smile. Baxter wasn't there, still locked safely away, she claimed, in the name of community safety. I waited until she finished her smug list of homeowner violations before standing up and calmly saying, Madam President, I have an urgent matter concerning stolen property, and I'd like to show the board the evidence. The screen flickered. The room went silent. On came the footage. Karen's face drained of color as the frame froze on her bending over my fence. I said, according to your bylaws, there's no clause allowing seizure of private animals. But if you'd like me to read the section about criminal impersonation, I have that ready, too. Every eye pivoted from the projector to her. And it was in that moment, the hush before the explosion, that Karen realized the meeting she'd convened for control was about to become her unmasking. Every face in the room seemed frozen mid-blink. The projector light lit Karen like a mugshot from a suburban true crime documentary. You could almost hear everyone's minds catching up to what they were seeing. Our HOA president, the neighborhood rule enforcer, creeping into my yard and walking off with my dog. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. Then, barely above a whisper, "That footage is taken without authorization. You can't present." My lawyer, Mr. Hahn, stepped forward like a calm storm. "Actually, ma'am, it's recorded from a lawful vantage point on the property of the rightful owner. Also, my client has the GPS records corroborating the theft." He clicked the next slide. Baxter's digital breadcrumb trail blinked bright red dots straight from my backyard to her porch. Someone muttered, "Oh, wow." Another, "She really stole the dog." Karen slammed her gavel, voice cracking. "This meeting is not a court. I'll remind attendees that HOA matters are civil." Hahn cut her off smoothly, speaking over the noise that was building like thunder. "Quite right. Which is why tomorrow morning, this matter will be in criminal court, not on your agenda." That broke the dam. Half the audience gasped. The other half clapped nervously, thrilled at the drama they were witnessing live. Someone even whispered, "Finally." Karen's composure unraveled in real time. She tried to blame improper registration, tried to pivot to bylaws. But the board members, many of whom she'd bullied for years, were clearly done. The treasurer, Mr. Jefferson, mumbled, "This isn't right, Karen. You crossed a line." When I spoke again, I kept my voice level. All I wanted was my dog back. What I didn't expect was to uncover how far you'd go to control everyone. It wasn't a grand speech, but something about the plainness of it hit home. The audience murmured, people nodding. For once, Karen wasn't the one orchestrating the narrative. She shrank into her chair while Hahn handed her a printed notice, the legal equivalent of a plot twist nobody saw coming. "Effective immediately," he said. "You are to release Baxter and cease all claims of ownership or authority regarding this matter. Local law enforcement has been notified." The next morning, 2 sheriff's deputies stood in Karen's immaculately edged driveway. I stayed back, letting the professionals handle it. She tried one last desperate defense. "It's an HOA pet. They can't take him." But the deputy's raised eyebrow ended that fast. When the gate swung open and I saw Baxter bounding toward me, tail wagging so hard it practically bent time, the release of tension hit like a tidal wave. Weeks of humiliation, anger, strategizing, all washed away in that bark. Neighbors peeked from porches. Someone even cheered. Mrs. Delgado cried. It wasn't just about a dog anymore. It was about watching the tyrant topple from her manicured throne. Karen was cited for criminal mischief and misdemeanor theft of property. Nothing dramatic like a perp walk, but enough to make the HOA board call an emergency vote. By that afternoon, her reign ended in a quiet 8-1 decision of no confidence. The lone vote in her favor was her own. 2 months later, the community newsletter looked different. No more passive-aggressive reminders about mailbox colors, just meeting minutes, gardening tips, and a new section titled Resident Pets of the Month. Baxter was the first feature, wearing a necktie and looking smugly heroic. Karen moved out shortly after the court fined her and mandated a psychology-led conflict resolution workshop. Rumor had it she tried joining another HOA elsewhere. Whether they Googled her first, or she finally realized suburbia no longer bowed to her, we may never know. As for me, I kept the fence camera up, not just for security, but as a trophy of sorts, a reminder that when someone abuses a rulebook, sometimes justice comes from reading the fine print louder. Baxter didn't care about any of that. He cared that tennis balls still flew, meals arrived on time, and his bed by the window was once again safe territory. Still, every now and then, during morning walks when he sniffs the hedges by Karen's old house, I swear he grins. Maybe dogs, too, appreciate a little poetic justice. Lesson learned. In neighborhoods ruled by power-hungry presidents, evidence and calm persistence beat outrage every time. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't a shouting match. It's winning so cleanly they have nothing left to say but least terminated.